Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the May meeting of Karnataka Philatelic Society. We are restarting after a long time. It's not been easy. It's been very difficult. COVID has been hampering everything. So we would like to reiterate: stay at home, stay safe. We have made a fresh start, yes, and we will try to continue to engage you in philately as we tried to do last time. It takes a lot of time, effort, and energy doing this, and we hope to engage you in philately for some more time. If we go by philately news, exhibition news, uh, we've just had yesterday was the birthday of Penny Black. We have a small Jagannath Mani sir has put together a small something which we will come to at the end of the show. Uh, if you go by international exhibitions, lot of postponements, lot of rescheduling. But the positive side is that a lot of firming has happened. A lot of national coordinators have been appointed. So that it's a huge document. So I will try and put that together later in the group. Now, without any further ado, I think we should go into our talk. Khaitan sir, you ready, sir?
Naveen, you missed the new joinee. Welcoming the new joinee.
Okay. Club news. No, I sort of. Okay. Mr. Ajay Nayak, are you online, please?
I don't think he has joined.
Yeah. Okay. We've had one life member. Um, it is tradition for us to introduce our life members, and it is also tradition for us to honor those who are no longer among us. So that's why I skipped this slide. I thought I'll keep it for the end because we have also lost somebody, and I didn't want to start pre-thing with something like that. So I thought I will keep that for the end. That's why I skipped this on purpose. Ajay sir, Piyush sir,
Yes, I am ready.
Piyush sir. May I take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Piyush Khaitan? I had the opportunity to meet him during Impex in Bombay, where he was kind enough to take a few of us around on a walk of Bombay. I had visited Bombay hundreds of times, but then this was one aspect of Bombay I didn't see or I didn't bother to notice. So he took us out on a nice walk around the Mint, what you call the fort area, and all that, and treated us to a lovely breakfast at the end of the walk. If you go by how Mr. Khaitan would like to have himself referred to, he would like to have himself referred to as an amateur philatelist with over 12 years of philatelic interests. His particular interests are in around airmails, particularly around uh, those around the World War II, which is clothed in a lot of gray area. There is no white and black in that, and postage dues. His exhibit on the crash mail won him the large Vermeil and the Nelson Esques Memorial Award for the best aero exhibit in Canberra 2020. And this exhibit on civilian Indian airmail during World War II won a gold at Felix 2020, Bangladesh last year. Now, he is a member of the Karnataka Philatelic Society. I think I've repeated it twice. Kindly excuse that. And one of his another passions has been Air India memorabilia. I would advise and I would suggest, please visit these two websites. Very, very, very informative and very, 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 very knowledgeable website. I mean, he has taken a lot of time and energy to put that two websites together. Mr. Kaitan, sir?
Yes, I'm ready.
Mr. Kaitan, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Naveen. Okay. So, good morning, everybody. And it's really a pleasure for me to be here with all of you in the KPS meeting. Um, for some of you who may be not knowing, I have relocated back to Bangalore. I used to live here from 1978 till the year 2000. And in February this year, we moved back. So it's really a pleasure to be here and hope to enjoy the KPS activities even more. Before I start, what I'm going to present today, there is no original research done by me. It's basically information and philatelic material that I have got from other people who have written about it or purchased material. So all credit is due to them. And at the end, I will be giving some references for those of you who are interested, where you'll get deeper information on the subject. There may be mistakes in the presentation, and those are certainly mine. What I will be doing during this talk is referring to places in a contemporaneous context. So during the World War II, Mumbai was called Bombay or Kolkata was called Calcutta. So I will be using the names as were used. So Chennai was Madras at that time. And the other thing is where we talk about postage rates, units of currency, etc. I will be using Anna and Pi. I will not be using rupees. I just find it personally a lot easier. So if there's a 18 Anna rate, some people say 1 rupee, 2 Anna, some people say 18 Anna. Or if you'll see there is a rate during the war to Switzerland of 56 Annas. So I find it easier to say 56 Annas than 3 rupees, 8 Annas, because calculating is a lot easier that way. So I will not be using rupees. I'll just be using Annas and Pi in the currency. So what you're going to see is that we are going to keep the Red Cross messaging scheme as the kind of central theme. But around this theme, we are going to take a lot of words. We are going to look at the various routes that were followed, the postal rates with censorship marks. We look at some of the UPU conventions, how they applied to mail at that time. We will look at some of the very important role the Red Cross Society played in the post-war time. So this is going to be kind of a little bit of a meandering talk. In 1943, at the height of the Axis power, so you will see certain countries shaded in a darker shade of purple, some in a lighter shade of purple. But all of these, which means almost the entire continent of Europe, was under Axis domination. So right from Norway, Finland, the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, part Russia, the Balkan states, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Yugoslavia, all of those. Of course, Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark. Similarly, North Africa from Morocco, all the Libya, everything was dominated by the Axis forces. So really what was left was Britain at one end, Egypt, which still was partially under British control, and then the Soviet Union. Spain had a kind of so-called neutrality, but Portugal, Switzerland, and Sweden were the three neutral nations in Europe. So the big problem was that now, how do you communicate living there in these countries? How do you send messages to them? How do you get messages back from them? People were very anxious about they would have relatives, they would have family in those places, and people were anxious. So this is where the Red Cross postal messaging scheme came in and created this channel by which people could communicate. In fact, it was the only official mode of correspondence with family members or friends without violating the strict rules of communicating. And all the nations involved in World War II accepted the messages and allowed the addressees to send a reply through this scheme. So this was a unique scheme that allowed communication between warring and belligerent nations. So how did this work? Show you a document. So what was the kind of correspondence that was permitted? So what you see here is what the Red Cross calls Message Form 61. Now, Message Form 61 was a form which you could fill up, hand over to the Red Cross, and they would then send it to the addressee at the other end. And similarly, the addressee at the other end could write a reply through the Red Cross, send it back to you. So all communication was happening through the Red Cross. This form itself is very interesting. What you see here is a form of a message sent from England, from Manchester in England, to Guernsey in the Channel Islands. Guernsey and Jersey were the two principal islands comprising the Channel Islands, which was the only part of it was under German occupation during the war. And so, in fact, of the people living there. An interesting factoid about this is 300 years ago, or more than that, close to 400 years ago in 1640, the bailiff of Jersey gave shelter to King Charles II. And the king was so happy because of the shelter refuge that was given to him that he gave him a large portion of land in their newly formed colonies in America. And he promptly renamed that as New Jersey. So the state of New Jersey, now you understand the context, how it gets the name. Now let's look at the form itself. So I'll point my cursor. The person sending the message is this Marjorie Austin. So you write the name here. The address, as you can see, is Red Cross Bureau in Manchester. So she would have to send a message to the Red Cross Bureau Manchester. They would fill up the form for her. The reason for this is the postal censors would be much more comfortable that there's no secret ink, there's no micro dots, there's no coded messages being sent because it's been retranscribed by the Red Cross there. Then here is the space for the message itself. So you could write only a message of up to 25 words, and there were very specific instructions of only general information. So she's writing to her mother, "Dear mom, thanks for congratulations, still single," etc. And then she would put here the address of the person to whom the message is to be given, which was in Guernsey, Channel Island. Now, if you see here, her message is dated 18th November 42, and this is the Red Cross seal in Manchester, 9th December 42. It has the Red Cross seal here and passed by the postal censor. On the other side of the reply now is the reply from the mother daughter. So she says, "Dear Marge, I am so pleased," etc., etc. Again, the Red Cross seal is here. So these letters were not sent from Manchester to Channel Island. They were sent from Manchester to the Red Cross Society, Geneva. So if we go back to the front of it, the seal of the Red Cross Society, Geneva. And Geneva would then forward it to Channel Island. Channel Island would process the reply, send it back to Geneva, who would then forward it back to Manchester. So you see the Guernsey Red Cross seal here. Geneva got passed through British censor again. And the reply came on 15th June 19. So just a simple message like this took just from Red Cross to Red Cross itself, it took close to 6 months, little over 6 months to communicate. So this is typically the messaging service that operated. Now, in order for this service to work, there was, when the form that you see here on the previous page, when this reached the addressee in Guernsey, with the addressee, this set of instructions came. How do you reply? And the reply instructions are again very precise. You can write up to 25 words, purely personal and family matters. You have to address the envelope in a particular way. You have to keep it brief. There was a whole list of what you cannot do. Don't mention service matters. Don't mention receipt of radio message. Don't mention results of enemy action. Don't towns. So there were very strict rules about what you could do, could not do. Then, of course, you see this envelope. This is the, much awaited, what people would wait for. People would wait for in the post, because the form that you saw before would be folded in half, and the window would then display the address of the person to whom it had to go. And this was the envelope from the Red Cross in Geneva. What you also had to do was enclose a reply coupon to cover the postage, which the person would have to pay, would have to reimburse the Red Cross to send the reply to you. So you had to buy the international reply coupon. International reply coupons were sanctioned under the UPU. So the last UPU convention before the war was in Buenos Aires in 1939. So Article 50 of the Buenos Aires Convention says that the reply coupon can be sold by all countries. The selling has to be a minimum of 28 cents. Now, the cent they refer to here is the UPU, what they use, the French franc, the gold franc as the currency unit. And 1 cent, 1 franc would weigh 10 upon 31 of a gram and have 0.900 purity. So 22 karat gold, approximately 1/3 of a gram was a franc, and 1 cent was 100th portion of that. So 28 UPU cents at that time for India came to 4 annas. You're all familiar with the surface rate at that time of 3.5 anna, which was 25 UPU cents. So this was sold in India for 4 annas, the reply coupon. So this is broadly how the messaging scheme would work. So the person wanting to send the message would write to the Red Cross. They would fill up the form for you. They would then send it through the Geneva to the other country. The reply would come. They would fill it up, send it to you, and you had to enclose this UPU coupon along with the form. Let's take a look at the postage rates at that time. So the surface letter rate up to 1 ounce from India at that time was 3.5 annas, and it remained that way. The air fee per half ounce throughout the war was 18 anna, 1 rupee, 2 anna. The routes would keep changing. So we consider 3rd September 39 as the outbreak of the war, declared war against Germany. Until September 41, it was the traditional route, which is the Empire route from Karachi to Croydon. And the mail would be dropped off at Brindisi in Italy. And the cover would need to be superscribed India, Italy. And from there to Switzerland. With the fall of France and with Italy joining the Germans in World War II, this route ended in September. So that's the time the horseshoe route kicked up into action. And from September 41 to March 44, huge chaos. So there was no need for any superscription. They would just find the easiest available route. A lot of that were marked airmail were also sent by surface. But otherwise, it could go from all the way down to South Africa, Cape Town, by air from Karachi. That was the open air route. And from there, it would go sometimes by ship, sometimes partially by air into Europe. By March 44, the Africa route had opened, where the letter did not have to go all the way down to Cape Town, but it would cross Africa, and again from West Africa go up into Portugal, and then from there. Portugal was a neutral country, so it was much easier to route mail through there. 45, which is pretty much after the war in Europe ended, the India, UK, Switzerland route. Mail would go by air to England, and from there it would go by air to Switzerland. So all the way air services had restarted. Even if the another route opened in May 41 up to December 41, which was all the way around. So this was the eastward route, and it would go to Rangoon. Rangoon, it would be handed over to CNAC, the China National Aviation Company, and it would go via Chungking. It would find its way to Hong Kong. Hong Kong, it would be handed over to Pan Am, the Clipper service, the FAM 14 route, and Pan Am would take it from Hong Kong via Manila, Guam, Midway, Honolulu, all the way to San Francisco. The transcontinental airmail services United all the way to Miami, and from Miami again Pan Am would take it on FAM 22 across North Africa to Portugal, and then from Portugal it would go by surface to Switzerland. So this was one hell of a route, and it was available for a limited period of time, because 9th December 41 Pearl Harbor happened, America was at war, and this route had to shut down because Japan and fighting with each other. So this was a very short-lived route to Switzerland during the war. So with this, now we'll go a little bit into examples of mail that was sent from India. So there were a lot of people in India who had family, relatives up there wanting to know how they were doing, etc. So what we will see now for the next 5 or 6 slides are examples from here. So what you see on the left is the Bharat cloth house cover, and this cover is dated Gurjanwala, 26th April 43. It's franked the airmail rate. Very interesting thing here, actually it is franked 15 annas. There are 4 stamps which are hidden by the labels. There's one stamp here on the top left corner, and there are 3 stamps on the right hand side. So I actually had to use a sharp and powerful light at the back and was able to read the franking. So this cover was franked 15 annas, which means the rate at that time was 18 annas by air plus the air fee, 3.5 anna surface fee, 21.5. So it was understamped 6.5 anna, which at the UPU calculation worked out to 93 cents, 93 UPU cents postage due. So you see the tax mark for postage due, 93 cents written in pencil. This cover is triple censored. So this is a very interesting cover. It's been through 3 different censorships. First, on the left, you see the opened by examiner, the PC90 label, and the octagonal cachet on the reverse pass DHC 37. So DH was the code for India, C was the censor station code for Bombay, and 37 was the sensor number. So it is censored in Bombay, DHC 37 stamp applied, and the label was used to seal at Bombay, opened by examiner. It's also tied here by a DHC 91, the examiner chop. So DHC 91 was the number of the officer who actually examined the letter. Then we see on the right hand side, here, opened by examiner 7350. This was up in London. So this is one evidence to us of the route the letter followed. This is a London label. It was censored there. The other giveaway, of course, is the airmail has been cancelled by these two red-pink bars, which is the indication by the office in London, indicate that the air journey is completed and the rest of the journey will be done by surface. So that's the second indicator that the letter traveled to London. Then we see here a German censor mark. So we see the label here, Geofnet, and there is a label here, and then there is a red cachet applied. So Geofnet means opened, and this is the label, which says the letter was opened by German censors, because you must appreciate that France at that time was already under German occupation. And here, if you see carefully, you'll see a small X. X is the station code for Paris. So it says it was opened at the German censor at Paris. And incidentally, while it says Paris, this was applied throughout France. So you will see letters censored places in France also with the X code. You also see this red cachet here. It says geprüft, G-E-P-R-U-F-T. Geprüft means examined. And then it says here, Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, which means the command of the armed forces. So this is examined by the military censor and then passed and allowed to travel. So the letter has been censored 3 times. It's supposed to, and it's got the cachet cancellation. I'm not going to spend too much time on every cover, but I just thought this would be interesting in context. What you see here is another. So here, this person has actually written directly to the International Red Cross Society, Geneva. He would have enclosed, but he doesn't seem to have enclosed the reply coupon. Because typically, if you enclose a reply coupon, as you will see in later examples, you will see the coupon réponse red cachet applied on the cover as well, which is missing here. The cover on the right, again by somebody through, and it says very clearly, Red Cross Postal Message Service. Again here, and it says A. A is the code for Calcutta. So this was censored at Calcutta, Park Street, Calcutta, and it's dated 11th of June 1941. So this is one of the very early letters when this scheme started in India. And again, censored by the German censor. But this one has not gone through London. This has gone through some other route at that time. Now I'm going to show you something quite interesting, just a little bit of a detour about the postal service and censorship in Bombay.
जमा कर रहे सड़क पे चल रहे हैं, हाथ में एक बैग लिए, और ये सोच रहे हैं कि मैं जाऊं कहां, इसलिए कि इनका कोई ठौर ठिकाना ही नहीं था। आगे गए तो देखा एक दुकान है, वहां पर स्टैम्प बिकते हैं। अब इनके पास तो खाने को भी पैसा नहीं था, तो इन्होंने अपना स्टैम्प का एल्बम निकाला और उससे कहा कि भाई इसमें से मैं कुछ स्टैम्प बेचना चाहता हूं, तुम खरीदोगे? उसे सूरत देख के समझ गया कि सुबह से खाना नहीं खाया शायद इस लड़के ने, तो उसने कहा भाई ये तो कोई खास है नहीं स्टैम्प, हालांकि थे, तो 10 रुपए दे दूंगा। उनका नहीं साहब 10 रुपए में तो मैं नहीं बेचूंगा स्टैम्प। और वो जाने लगे ये उम्मीद करके कि, मगर जब इतनी दूर तक चले गए और किसी ने पुकारा नहीं तो खुद ही मुड़ा है। कहले अच्छा ये बताओ कि अगर मैं थोड़े ज्यादा स्टैम्प दे दूं कितने पैसे दोगे? तो वो कुछ हिसाब किताब चलता रहा, कभी वो इन्हें रोकता, कभी ये जाने की कोशिश करते, कभी ये पलट के आ जाते, कभी वो इंडिफरेंट हो जाते। अल्टीमेटली सौदा हुआ पूरे एल्बम का और इनको 30 रुपए दे दिए। और इस 30 रुपए में एक भूखे नौजवान लड़के ने इस शहर में अपना वो एल्बम भेज दिया जिसे वो बचपन से जमा करता है। मुझे लगता है कि देवानंद तो जिंदगी में सब, लेकिन वो एल्बम याद आता हो, लेकिन काम तो कुछ था नहीं, यहाँ से वहां घूम रहे थे कि अल्टीमेट का एड दिखाई दिया। और वो एड ये था कि उस जमाने में सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर चल रही थी, ब्रिटिश आर्मी थी, हिंदुस्तान तब तक आजाद तो हुआ नहीं था। तो उनका एक तरीका था कि जो आर्मी ऑफिसर्स अपने घर खत लिखते थे, उन खतों को सेंसर किया जाता था कि आर्मी ऑफिसर कभी जानबूझ के या अनजाने में कोई ऐसी बात खत में न लिख दे जो कि सिक्योरिटी के खिलाफ हो। तो वो खत सेंसर होते थे। तो फ्लोरा फाउंटेन पे इसका ऑफिस था, जिसे अब हुतात्मा चौक कहते हैं। तो वहां गए और इनको ये नौकरी मिल गई। अब ये एक ही काम करते थे कि सुबह जाते थे और आर्मी ऑफिसर और सिपाहियों के खत पढ़ते थे, और कोई ऐसी वैसी बात हो तो काट दी जाती थी। जिंदगी गुजर रही थी, कुछ लुत्फ नहीं था, कुछ जोश नहीं था। देव साहब का कहना है कि एक दिन उन्होंने एक कर्नल का खत पढ़ा जो उसने अपनी बीवी के नाम लिखा था, और उसने कहा कि मैं इस बेरंग से जिंदगी से तंग आ चुका हूं और मैं सोच रहा हूं कि कुछ भी हो जाए मैं अपनी नौकरी छोड़ दूंगा, देखा जाएगा जो भी होगा। ये जो जुमले उन्होंने पढ़े इससे ऐसा लगा कि ये तो मेरे ज़मीर की आवाज़ है और उन्होंने तय किया कि मैं ये नौकरी नहीं करूँगा, मैं नौकरी छोड़ देता हूँ और उन्होंने छोड़ दी।
Okay, can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, very much,
Okay,
sir.
great. Yeah. So I think I thought it would be an interesting fact to know that Devanand worked as a postal censor in Bombay. And if somebody can find out what his, examiner number was, we can probably look for mail that was censored by Devanand. But anyway, moving on from this is another cover, again addressed to Red Cross Geneva. And here you see the coupon response. 4 Anna UPU reply coupon would have been enclosed here. It's sent from Calcutta. It is postmark New Market, Calcutta. I couldn't read the exact date, but it's June 19. Now, what is interesting here is this went on an RAF flight. The plane crashed. So this is actually a salvage mail cover. And if you look at the right edge, you see here the word salvaged and something here on the reverse. So this actually is an endorsement which says salvage from airmail Cairo Karachi dispatch number. So dispatch number 65 is the RAF dispatch which carried the mail that crashed. Cairo Karachi is of course wrong because the flight was actually going Karachi Cairo, but that's what it says. Now, interestingly, the letter sent in June 43, we see DLO stamps here for 23rd and 30th August of DLO Bombay. So it did not go to Geneva, it came back to Bombay. They salvaged the mail, they brought it back to Bombay. And finally, we see here an arrival mark of Geneva of January 1944. So this letter, just to go from Bombay to Switzerland alone, took over 6 months. And then the whole process of sending it to the other country, the form, getting the reply and sending it back to this person would have started. So it just gives you an idea of how arduous and how long it was. The letter is franked correctly, which is the 21.5 Anna rate. We'll go on from here. Similarly, there were people who sent mail by surface. So I will not go into too much detail here, just few interesting things I'll point out. So the surface letter rate was 3.5 Anna. All of these are franked 3.5 Anna. The first cover that you see, what is interesting is it is censored at Bombay, DHC, and you see this seal on the reverse, received unsealed at postage censor. So this letter, because it was not sealed at the postage censor in Bombay, it would have this seal, and these are all documented in Morinweiser, and some of them are documented in Brigadier Works book as well. This one is postmarked Jhansi, November 42. The one in the middle has a seal which says on the front, received damaged postal censor. And on the top, you see the brown paper tape that the censor has used to repair the damage on this cover. On the reverse, of course, you see the coupon ribbons. And again, this was sent from Bombay GPO. It was sent to Geneva, to the Red Cross Society there. The one on the right is again a Bombay GPO cover. Here, the center, this Miss B. Pyrus, we cut out a label from somewhere to make it look like a kind of an official cover or something and stuck it. So these are some examples of mails of people that were sent individually. However, the problem was that individually it was very expensive for people. Not everybody would want to wait for the surface letters to reach, and not everybody could afford to pay the airmail fee. And also they felt that sending through the Red Cross Society, things would have been much easier. So now we go to the Indian Red Cross Society and the role that they played in making this service happen. So the Indian Red Cross Society, just a little bit of background. The first recorded cover is of April 1941. This is an article by David Trapnell in India, giving you the reference of this at the end. So he says that it started in April. So what you see on the left with the early kind of Red Cross Society design. It has that war coupon, war loan publicity print at the bottom left. It has the coupon repon's arrival there. And this one was also an early letter, 18th August 1941. So what people would do is they would write to the Red Cross Society Bombay. They would enclose the reply coupon. The Red Cross Society would buy 15, 20 of these, put them in a single cover and send it by airmail to Geneva. And similarly, the reply would come from Geneva by airmail. So this would help to speed up the things for people who could not afford to pay the airmail themselves. Not only that, the society would transcribe the messages in the form, write it neatly in block letters, ensure that no were being transmitted. So they would pass through the censor also much faster. So on the right-hand side, you see the new design of the cover, which says 141 Mint Road, Bombay. So the Red Cross Society is actually part of the town hall compound. The town hall today is the Asiatic Library of Bombay. And next to that is the Mint, where you see the new Reserve Bank of India building. So in between the town hall and the Bombay Mint, and even today, the office exists. Now it serves as the blood bank of the Bombay Red Cross Society, but it's very much there. And you see this pink boxed cachet on the which again says the Red Cross Postal Message Service and says all inquiry to be field at the town hall compound, Bombay, in the Red Cross office. So they would be bunching together these letters. Now, the letter is passed through the German censor. You see the label and the cachet of the German censor on the reverse as well. But look at the bottom left corner of the front. You see something written in pencil. These are actually notations made by the German censor. And what it tells you is the register number, page number, and number of forms it contained. So the middle where you see 10 plus. So the 10 gives you an indication that this cover contained 10 forms. And each of the forms would correspondingly contain the same code. And they would be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way to 10. So this is the very meticulous record keeping the German censors would follow when mail was passing through them. Now we just go forward by a year or two, still the Red Cross Society Bombay, but now we see the cover on the front, on the left. The address of Mint Road has been cancelled and it says Prince of Wales Museum, Fort Bombay. So this is something interesting. The Prince of Wales Museum was actually, the foundation was laid in 1905. It was ready in 1915 or so, but was not open to the public for many years after that because World War I was on at that time. And it was actually serving as a military hospital during World War. And it is only when the war got over that it opened as a museum. So here we see again during World War II, the museum or part of it was used for some of these war services. And the Postal Message Service of Red Cross Society operated from there. The other interesting thing you see on the left is messages for Europe. And if you just glance on the cover at the right, it says messages for Far East. So now you are able to separate the messages probably for faster processing in Geneva and send it that way. Also on the reverse of the left cover, you see the wax seal, which says PMS, which we interpret to be the Postal Message Service seal of the Red Cross Society. And again, receive damage postal sensor, the brown tape used to repair the cover. You can imagine a cover with 10, 15 of these pages and reply coupons would be bursting at the seams. So that is probably what happened. The letter is R788, Secretariat Bombay. So Secretariat Bombay is not what we see today, what we call the Mantralaya, that was earlier Sachivalaya. That was opened only in 1955. Before the Secretariat was actually what is now the Magistrates Court. So from the Oval Maidan, if you're looking from the north to the south, you have the High Court, you have the Bombay University, and you have the Magistrates Court, and lastly, the Institute of Science. Magistrates Court was actually the Secretariat. And then when the Secretariat moved from there, so the post office was literally a few hundred yards from the Prince of Wales Museum. Earlier mail that you saw would be registered at Elphinstone Post Office or Bombay GPO, which was much closer to the town hall. The cover on the right is again another. You see the 2 rupee stamp with the thick X cancellation, the killer cancellation, to prevent people from misusing high value stamps there. Similarly, other Red Cross societies also participated a lot in this scheme. Letters from Calcutta. So as you know, when the British first came, there were 3 main presidencies: Bombay, Madras, and Bengal. So first we saw the Bombay presidency. Now we are seeing the Bengal presidency. So they call it the Bengal provincial branch. From the reverse of the cover, we know that they were at Clive Building in Calcutta, and they operated from there. It is censored. If you see the chop, it is DHAA. So again, censored in Calcutta and sent from there by surface. So it's got the 3.5 Anna franking. It's gone by surface to Switzerland. The cover on the right is an airmail cover. So this one sent again from Clive Building, but again very well sealed and taped because it obviously would have contained several forms. Madras. Now here is something interesting. We see the Red Cross Society, Madras Province. So the reverse address tells us Joint War Charities Commissioner, Government House, Madras. So that's where they operated from. The one, if you see on the top cover left, you see the AX in a circle, the violet cachet. So this is actually, again, a German censorship cachet. The A stands for, now I'm going to try to read German for you. It stands for and Brief Prüfstelle, which means Foreign Mail Examination Office. It was the equivalent of not opened but passed through the censor but not opened by the censor. So it passed through the Foreign Mail Examination Office. X again is the station code for Paris. So this was in Paris or somewhere in France. The other thing, if you see the reverse of the cover, you see the language, German and French. Below this, I've shown you the reverse of 3 other covers from the same Madras provincial branch. One says English Dutch, the other says English French, the other says English Italian and Danish. So basically what they tried to do was to separate languages in separate covers so that it would go to censors who knew that language and pass through very quickly. If they pooled everything together in one single cover, even if one message was in, let us say, Danish, and the person was not there, the entire bunch of mail would get delayed. So for speedy processing of mail, Madras did the right thing in segregating this by language. So with this, we are now coming to the end of the talk. I just want to add that the Red Cross Society did various other roles as well for postal services during Second World War. The Postal Message Service was one of them. On the left, you see that they also had a role to play with prisoner of war. So just like they were helping people in India communicate with relatives in Europe, they were helping So the peace station was in Bombay. It was created specially for all prisoner of war mail. And that is the importance of the peace significance. On the reverse, if you see the Italian censor label, Verificato para Censura. So this was routed through Italy and went through Italian censorship. In the center, you see there was a Wounded, Missing and Relatives Department, London. So the Red Cross Commissioner in Simla would correspond with him and send various inquiries and information routed through him. And on the right-hand side, you see here again the prisoner of war kind of a mail. that was going from the Red Cross organization. The last thing before I end is the International Red Cross Committee itself had a delegation in India. This was based, but you see on the left a letter sent by them from Landor camp, which is in Missouri, to Canada. You see the Canada, very faint censorship mark on the bottom right of the cover. Again, DHP, so it went through the prisoner of war section in Bombay. On the right-hand side is a cover which is addressed to the Red Cross in Italy, in Naples, from Simla. This is only a front of a cover, but very interesting is, though it's a registered cover from Bombay GPO, there's no cancellation mark. So when it went to the censor has actually obliterated the stamp, and it's a high value, 7 rupee 8, 7 rupee 9.5 on franking. So he has obliterated it with the censor mark. So these were some examples of mail of the Red Cross. A lot of material to read and to collect. With this, I will come to my end. For further reading, I would recommend these two particular references, which are a good starting point. Each of them has a large bibliography attached to it. So those of you who want to go deeper can also go deeper into that. So with that, thank you for your patience, and I'm happy to take any feedback or any questions.
Piyush sir, thank you very much for a very, very, let's say, in-depth talk about a topic which most of us weren't even aware of, with this kind of a service which existed during the World War II. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open for questions. I would request you to put the questions in the text box or raise hand and we will get back to you.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the prisoner of war. At that time when the mail was sent, so at that time also the stamps were required or not required at that time? How they were handled?
So prisoner of war mail was exempt from postage for the surface rate. So if you wanted to send prisoner of war mail through surface mail, it would be free of stamp. But if you wanted it to go by air, the air surcharge had to be franked additionally.
Mr. Anil Kumar, could you, I don't understand your question. Can you switch on your mic and ask it personally, please? Arun Kumar N.
Sir, thanks for a nice talk. In continuation to the question about prisoner of war, the stamp, I just want to know how actually the censor office operated it and how you said these stamps were not needed for a surface mail. Can you just throw much light on about it, sir? Thank you, sir.
Could you repeat the later part of your question? I could not hear it completely.
Sir, I actually wanted to know in detail about how the post office handled prisoner of war mails. You said to question to another question about prisoner of war. So just want to know a bit detail about it, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I think that is the subject of another talk.
Yes.
Itself, in fact, prisoner of war mail is a very, very detailed and fascinating subject. I must confess my own knowledge and stuff. But what I would like to just tell you in summary is when you look at prisoner of war mail, look at it two ways. One is there were a lot of prisoner of war camps in India where Italian and German soldiers who were prisoners of war were brought here. And what were the arrangements for them to receive mail and send mail from here? Second, also there were civilian internees. So when India was at war, which means when Britain was at war, if you were a German, Italian, or even an Austrian or Czechoslovak national in India at that time, you were put into these internment camps. And again, there were restrictions on mail and censorship for civilian internees. The other aspect is the Indian soldiers, Indian army, or relatives of people who were prisoners of war in various theaters of the war in the Far East, in Europe, etc. So it's a very, very detailed subject. And I would suggest that, at some time KPS should organize another talk on that.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for responding.
We will try, sir. We have our own Mr. Mani Muthukrishnan, who's been working on this for a very long time. We'll request him perhaps to make a presentation. So there's one more small query from one Mr. J. Parmeshwara. Very nice presentation, Mr. Khaitan. Why aren't there any German censor marks of the form sent to Guernsey?
Yeah, so just let me, I'm just opening the form itself. Yeah, so clearly there are no German markings on the form, but I must say that I have several examples of mail, and some of which I've shown here, which also do not have German censor marks on them. And similarly, mail which has gone from India or to India during the war, which does not have Indian censor marks on them. So I don't think every single article that passed was necessarily censored. There was some kind of random selection that was done at that time. But I cannot answer that authoritatively.
There's one more small query from Mr. Arun Kumaran again. So it would be nice if the recording and the slides are uploaded onto a website. So on where these branches existed, I would like to inform what you call it. Sorry, I think I mixed up two questions. Sorry. Let me answer Arun Kumar's first. Mr. Arun Kumar, this talk is being recorded. Now there are two websites I had indicated previously. I will, before the end of the meeting, I will show them on screen again. This talk will be uploaded there. I mean, without the rest of the portion of the meeting, just the talk portion of it will be uploaded there. And there is various other resources. Please do visit them. I have Kiran Natarajan. Kiran, would you like to ask a question yourself, please? Kiran? Okay, he says, no, Naveen, go ahead. He says, I have read I.R.C.S. stroke SJAA had overseas branches. Any examples of mails processed by there and any info where these existed? I know only of Iran stroke Iraq.
This is a subject I have limited knowledge. I am aware that the scope of activities were beyond what we consider. They were in several parts, several theaters of action. I have seen a lot more during World War I and some of the other campaigns, military campaigns, where they had a bigger role to play, including on the hospital ships, etc. I have not seen any examples of the Indian Red Cross Society mail other than from within India.
Any more questions, Religious Gibbon? If there are no more questions, can we move to the next item on the agenda, please?
Just before I end, I would like to, a small memory. I had the pleasure of speaking to the KPS in 2019 on the topic of Air India.
Yes, sir.
And I was presented with this very nice memento by the KPS, which I have kept very, very close to me. And also this very lovely elephant presented by the KPS. So I just thought that I should acknowledge that here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's an honor, sir. At the onset, I'd like to thank Mr. Piyush Khaitan for taking his time off and sharing his knowledge with us. It has been a tradition in KPS where we've had interesting talks about very, very, very out of the way topics. And we thank Piyush ji once again for providing us with such a wonderful talk. Now, as I had said, I'm putting on screen two websites which I would encourage everybody to come and visit time and again, because he puts in a lot of time and effort into this, and it gets updated very often. So we would like that to happen. Piyush ji, thank you very, very, very much.